on the show is Israel Aye, partner, CANDELP director, Aspen Energy. Good morning, Mr. Israel Aye. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, NNPC Limited.
Good morning.
Good morning. NNPC Limited is now proposing and operate and maintain a partnership with private investors to take over the turnaround maintenance of the Warri refinery and the Kaduna refinery. This has raised questions. Will any investor be bold enough to take part in this concession arrangement? And the Kaduna refinery in particular, where is the crude oil that will go there? Do we have the infrastructure to even take, crude oil to that refinery? How feasible is this proposal?
Right. Okay. So some of the issues you have raised, Dr. Batis, maybe they go to the technical, and the question you asked is how feasible is it, right? And maybe my, if you will, cop out would be to say the best people to respond to us in that respect would probably be the NNPC itself. The information they have put out is probably not sufficient for anyone to be able to, from the outside, to be able to give a view as to the feasibility of that particular arrangement. But let me just say a few things about getting our terms and terminologies right. You see, O&M is a component of operating a plant or any such thing, and it's not unusual for a processing plant, a refinery such as the ones you have mentioned, or any plant for that matter, to have an O&M component. And I'm not sure that what we're really looking to see is an O&M. Quite frankly, that you're putting an O&M in place to run, to manage a facility shouldn't be news, and it shouldn't be news. And again, without necessarily giving a view as to the feasibility of it, honestly, I wouldn't say that I'm very excited at it. I was hoping that we would go a little further and do a bit more.
Okay, so can you expound on the more, go a bit more, because there have been conversations, and I know you touched on this before, but I'd like you to still expound on that. Should the NNPCL be looking to give, to private companies to manage, or just outrightly sell these refineries? I saw the books just a few weeks, I think a few weeks back, showing just how much money, amount of money is being spent on maintaining these refineries. Yes, they've now taken a step further to say, okay, let private organizations come and maintain it. Should it just totally be done away with, sold, so that they can take off that burden off their books?
Well, with the greatest respect, and it could just be the terminologies that are mixed up. But you see, just the throwing around, and I liked what was said. I think it was at during the summary before this conversation, that terms are now being thrown around. And so what are the terms of the O&M? O&M, like I said, is a component, is part of the management toolkit for managing a processing plant or any kind of plant for that matter. But what are the components of the procurement? So there are a couple of things we would look at. But before we even get there, what are the terms of this O&M? Would the NNPCL procure it as a service, which is typically what happens when you have an O&M, you procure it as a service. Perhaps what Nigerians, who all of us who are stakeholders, would like to see is a concession, and I heard Dr. Abati mention something to that effect, or indeed a termed lease. Now whether or not you can attract takers to take that at any reasonable price is a different matter. But a termed lease, where you relinquish the executive decision making to a technical group, because that's really where the issue is the operatorship. As long as you have a bureaucratic overlay in place that unfortunately has not been able to operationalize these facilities, and I'm not talking about the competence or otherwise of anybody for that matter, but just the records have shown that the last time any of these refineries processed anything was almost a decade ago or more, but as long as you have that bureaucratic overlay, so then the bringing into place of an O&M will not be exciting. Yes, but if what you're doing is a concession, quite frankly, I would even go as far as to recommend that, you probably maybe amortize the concession fee, charge nothing, so that whatever capital the concessionaire has is sufficient to be able to, to replace parts, repair the plant, and operationalize it, so that it is in the value that is created that we begin to see the benefit of it. Then you're having a different sort of conversation. But a simple O&M, I have my a bit of my roots in E&P, and O&Ms are things you have typically. Yes, and
okay.
So it's a bit too little information.
Okay. What I even want to ask you is this. With all of this corporate governance issue, do you think we're even really ready? And how can we even revamp the governance issue? Because that's principal in all of this. Because the reason why NNPC has flip-flopped, gone front, back, and center, forward march, left march, side run, is because of corporate governance. And that's why you're seeing a very nebulous outlook for the NNPC as regards their statements. This is the same NNPC that, concerning the Port Harcourt refinery, told us that we'll start working in August. It's not working today. They said it was mechanically complete as of December last year. Nothing is coming out today. This is the same NNPC that was talking about revamping the refineries and fixing them, but now they are saying they're looking for partners. I don't even get what is going on. So how quickly are we going to even fix the corporate governance issue in the first place?
So that's an excellent take, Rufai. Indeed, the issues around corporate governance. And that if we're being absolutely realistic, is that SOE, state-owned entities, not a lot of countries around the world have been successful with SOEs. Maybe one of the notable exceptions will be China. Indeed, you remember that under Thatcher, the great privatization, again, even the British society came to the conclusion that they're not very efficient in terms of how they run commercial entities and all of that. China has a different approach, some of which might be considered draconian in places like this. But one of the things China does, which I like, is if they can create competition within SOEs, for example, set up. So, for example, the Warri refinery, the Port Harcourt refinery, and the Kaduna refinery will be separate entities. You would seed them, you give them seed capital, and that's all. You would not subvent them. You would not, you not give them a grant. So they would either swim or sink. Of course, if there is corruption, you and I know what becomes of it. But unfortunately, our state-owned entities continue to be subvented. It probably will change under the new regime. So we're talking about corporate governance here. It probably will change under the current regime or not, but we are notoriously not able to implement any kind of consequence management for failure to deliver at all levels. You don't see that many people, doing jail terms for, say, corruption, much less the rest of it. So the solution in those circumstances is to take away private enterprise or commercial enterprise from, unfortunately, from the public sector in that sense, and give it, You either privatize it or you commercialize it. Now, because this is not exactly a conversation to look at that, I'm probably not even the best qualified person to talk to it. But to the extent that I know, I would say that, where we are, given all the history that we have, the very least we can do at this point in time is to concession those things. And honestly, I'll concession them, like I said, amortize the fees over a period of 5 to 10 years, so there is no capital commitment from the persons to whom you are concessioning it, so that they would have available funds to be able to operationalize those refineries. Now, the value created in that process is going to add a lot to our economy, yes? Instead of looking for rent, and again, just a bit of how we set up our public enterprise that is rent-focused is a bit of a concern that we have right now. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Okay. I heard you saying that O&M is a management option, but the question remains, why would anybody want to take over the responsibility at Warri Refinery and Kaduna Refinery? Refineries that the Nigerian government has not been able to fix. We have had all kinds of days, December 2023, June 2024, August 2024, December 2024. If the government finds it difficult to even get its own refineries to work, why should anybody take the burden of managing, operating, and maintaining to increase crude supply? And the second question is the matter raised by Senator Lukobiri, who said that PMS should be sold above landing cost to check smuggling. Is that how to check smuggling? Is that the way to go? If petrol is sold at maybe 1,200 naira, would that stop people from smuggling? You are in the energy sector. I would like to know what you think.
Okay, well, with respect to the first one, again, good question. Why would anybody want to touch it? And again, the problem is, like I said, O&M is just a toolkit it's kind of management, or one of the tools in the management toolkit of a facility such as that. What I don't know, you probably do at this point is, would it be on an operate? Is the O&M contractor going to be responsible for financing the equipment upgrade, the rehabilitation, and the likes of it? We don't know. But as long as it is a MES service, because O&M by itself is a service, it's not more than that. As long as it's a MES service, you probably would find entities that claim expertise in that space and would earn a fee. It would not matter to them whether your structure is sloppy or inefficient, as long as they have negotiated a good contract, probably a time-based contract. They put in the time, they earn the fees, and nothing happens. As the Nigerian public, I think those are the kinds of questions we should ask. What do you mean? O&M is a broad term. Tell us, what does it mean? Is it a concession? Is it a service you're procuring? What is the procurement? Because again, it is the Nigerian enterprise we're looking at, and all of us are stakeholders. Is it a procurement service? What is the process for the procurement? Hopefully it's an open and transparent process, and it's not a sweetheart deal, because if you enter into a sweetheart deal with persons who claim expertise, who don't have the capacity to deliver, then we have ended up in the same place, and with just a few sound bites for people like you and I to nibble at times like this. But that's not really getting to the heart of the matter. Now, but that's a question. But the other question, which is implicit within it, is assuming you go the next step to concession it so that people will invest some capital, then again, that's just a question of how you frame the deal. And I have suggested at least twice now, and I'll say it for the third time, that I would imagine that a deal that probably would see little to zero capital outlay, upfront outlay, may be attractive for some people who on terms. And so that will depend on the tenure. Is it a 5-year, 10-year, what sort of term? But what would happen is give the operators the autonomy to make executive decisions, and that is potentially what a concession would look like. I know, as a matter of experience, that successive governments, have been trying to sell, to dispose of these refineries unsuccessfully. So that's probably going to be a tougher call. But if you have a scenario where somebody can dip in, it's a bit like in soccer, you say it's a loan arrangement with an obligation to buy, to say, look, if you can come and operationalize it, then you can talk about a sale down the road. So that probably would be my response to the first question you asked. With respect to the second, so it's a bit vexed now to talk about the price of PMS. But again, if you observe, the only product, downstream product, that we experience in supply constraints and issues right now will be the PMS. And that's because it remains the only product that the pump price is regulated. Yes, that the pump price is regulated. And as long as it continues to be regulated, then you may not be able to get private players to import and to sell without a subsidy program. Now, that's a policy question or decision that this government will have to confront. Otherwise, they may need to go full deregulation, which is supported by the Petroleum Industry Act. But given other things, would that be the right thing? Again, there are a lot of the political economy, the socio-political economy questions are very broad, and I suspect that you would need a different time and panel to probably explore the issues around that.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Aye, for joining us on the morning show.